Good evening, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed your dinner. Tonight is a special night, and before we begin our induction ceremony, we'd like to take a moment to recognize our past Hall of Fame laureates.
Good evening. Thank you. I am Mark Saliba, Chairman of the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce and Board of Directors, and thank you for joining us tonight. We have an exciting evening ahead of us. The Dothan Business Hall of Fame was established in May of 2011 by the joint effort of the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce and the Dothan Area Young Professionals. The Hall of Fame's mission is to pay recognition to local business leaders who have made an impact on the community by promoting the free enterprise system of entrepreneurship. To honor these individuals who have spent a lifetime demonstrating civic leadership, philanthropy, and benevolence toward their fellow citizens. Personally, I love stories. I especially love life stories. I love the fact that tonight's laureates, as well as the ones in the past, are men and women that I have personally known. Chances are these are the families' lives have also intersected or interacted with many of the laureates that are alive today. Secondly, I appreciate how their lives have helped to give us a sense of identity and a sense of community. How do you measure the economic impact that Mr. John Red Dove had on the many lives that have been a part of the AAA Cooper legacy? And Mr. Morris Slingliffe helped to remind us just how important public education is to our community, and then showed us, yes, we can, Dothan. And Mr. Ralph Smith's contributions into the area of youth and the recreation, and the countless other community activities show us what a truly giving nature can accomplish in a community. The challenge to us today is said best by that well-known songwriter, philosopher, George Jones. Who's going to fill their shoes? Who's going to stand that tall? Will it be you and I? Who is going to stand tall for all of Dothan? I love the scripture at the end of Mr. Smith's bio, 2 Corinthians 9, 6, and 7, that says, "Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." The laureates tonight and those from the past have sowed bountifully in our community. And speaking of who's going to fill their shoes, I want to introduce and bring to the podium Mr. Ben Wallace, from the President of the Dothan Area Young Professionals.
Welcome and good evening. My name is Ben Wallace, and I'm the chairman of the Dothan Area Young Professionals. The Dothan Area Young Professionals are honored to partner with the Chamber for the Business Hall of Fame for this recognition program, with a mission to enrich our community by uniting and developing young professionals. The Dothan Area Young Professionals feel that being a part of this program will only enhance our objective and give us the opportunities to further support the participation in philanthropic activities. Recently, the Dothan Area Young Professionals have started a community development program where quarterly speakers will come to our group and talk to us about the long-standing businesses of Dothan. They give us an insight into the struggles and victories that come along with running a successful company. The past, current, and future inductees represent these businesses. These laureates are those who we look upon and look up to in the business world. We hope that the lessons and values that we have learned we can pass on down to future generations of business leaders, and tonight we are proud to honor their great accomplishments. Thank you.
And now it just doesn't like me, sorry. We now move on to the reason we're all here this evening, to honor 3 outstanding business leaders. Our first laureate was a fine gentleman with an abiding love and faith in family. He began at an early age working at his father's sawmill and then went on to become a pioneer in motor freight transportation in both Dothan and the state of Alabama. John H. Red Dove.
Whether we travel across the nation or across town, we can't miss seeing those blue and white big trucks with a AAA Cooper trailer in tow. And the man rightfully credited with driving all of them to success is John H. Red Dove. Though Red was a transportation pioneer, his career began a world away in a Mississippi sawmill. Things were tough in those days. The Great Depression made it hard for most Americans, and Mr. Dove was no exception. He needed opportunity, a way to support his wife, Sybil. And to find opportunity, in 1931, he headed to California. But Red Dove was at heart a Southerner, so he and Sybil packed up and came to Dothan where his father had settled. And that was a very good day for us. Red in 1932 founded 2 businesses, Dove Truck Lines and John H. Dove Transportation. The latter became known as D&D Transportation. In 1950, Red sold D&D. 5 years later, he purchased 2 small Alabama trucking companies and merged them, forming AAA Motor Lines. By the late 1960s, Red Dove's company was growing, really growing. So if things were good, why not make them better, Red theorized. So he purchased a Bruton-based trucking company, Cooper Transfer, and thus AAA Cooper, one of the most respected carriers in the world, was born. Red's company was first class, but Red Dove was in a class of his own, and his business peers knew that all too well. He was president and chairman of the board of the Alabama Trucking Association. Red was presented with the H. Chester Webb Distinguished Service Award. Google it, and you'll find it's the association's highest honor. Red was a charter sponsor and a chair of transportation at the University of Alabama, and in 1984 had a similar position at the University of Tennessee named for him. Red loved the transportation business, but he loved his community even more. His time and talents helped the First Baptist Church, the Salvation Army, Chamber of Commerce, Masonic Lodge, and Exchange Club. John H. Red Dove passed away in 1994. And while he may be gone, he is still well remembered. So next time you see a AAA Cooper truck motoring down the highway, let it serve as a reminder of the company's founder. Because you see, Red Dove was a man who made the long haul of life in a way that we will always cherish.
It was the early 1930s. Dad was in his early 20s. He went to Malone Motor Company, asked them if they would sell him a truck on credit, no down payment, no collateral other than the truck. But he'd pay for it by the week. And if he ever missed a week, they could have the truck back. And they did. So Dad started hauling freight. He had a contract with Newton Grocery Company, and he'd haul their products, canned goods, flour, cornmeal, that sort of thing. He made the early trailers in our backyard. I remember that very well. 25-foot trailers, flatbed. Well, a trip to Birmingham in those days took 8 hours each way, full 8 hours. You went right through downtown Troy, down to Montgomery, Calera, Clanton, Ozark, all of those towns. It was before four-lane highways and before the interstate had been thought of. Well, Dad would load in Birmingham, but the truck wouldn't haul heavier loads back up that mountain. So it's the wee hours of the morning. He would offload half the load at the bottom of the mountain, double low and up the hill to the top of the mountain, unload that half, then back down the mountain, load that half back on, then double low back up the top of the mountain, load that half, and come to Dothan. He said he would roll a Coca-Cola bottle under his foot to stay awake. He said as long as you kept that Coke bottle rolling, you wouldn't go to sleep. And those are the early days of AAA Cooper Transportation.
Accepting the honor this evening for his father and on behalf of the Dove family is Earl Dove.
Thank you. We're most grateful for this honor for Pop. We, of course, remember him in those early days as working very hard. We also remember him for his wit and his wisdom and his faith, a strong Christian man. He came from a one-room schoolhouse and oxen and mules and horses and dirt roads and ferries instead of bridges across rivers. And he became head of the trucking company. He founded a terrific trucking company, complete with modern equipment that we're running nowadays, computers and jet airplanes. It was a great life, and we were just delighted to have been a part of it. We remember him as being gone from home a lot in the early days. When he was home, he was a fine dad, first-rate Christian man. We grew up in a Christian faith. We're grateful to have the upbringing that we had, and we appreciate very much. We're grateful to you for inducting Pop into the Business Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Our next laureate was a lifelong resident of Dothan and a man of few words. He was very humble about his involvement in Dothan and was quick to commend people over the years who worked with him in improving our community. This gentleman made a difference in the lives of dozens of children and a multitude of people from every walk of life. Morris M. Slingleff.
Perhaps the best description of Morris Malone Slingleff is well-rounded. He was an accomplished athlete, quarterback for the 1959 Dothan High football team, a member of the school's golf team he helped lead to the state championships, and a winner of the Future Masters golf tournament. He was Auburn University's first golfer named All-American, and his name is on the college's Tiger Trail. Morris was competitive in the world of sports, and he was the same way in business, competitive yet fair and honest. He joined the insurance company of his father Betts in 1963, and from his first day on the job until his last, he treated people the way he wanted to be treated. And that's why Dothan did business with Morris Slingleff. Perhaps the biggest tribute to his business ethics is the fact that many competitors, when selling or retiring, entrusted their customers to the care of Morris Slingleff. And his business, Slingleff Insurance, grew from 4 to 19 employees. All inductees into the Business Hall of Fame have something other than business in common. All were givers to the community, and Morris was a big giver of his time and of his resources. Chairman of organizations such as the United Way, Red Cross, serving on the boards of the Von Bloomberg Center, Southeast Alabama Community Foundation, and Chamber of Commerce. He was president of the Dothan Rotary Club and the Biracial Study Group. But without question, Morris's biggest love was education and our students. He served as chairman of the Dothan School Board and Dothan Education Foundation and played an integral part of the Yes We Can movement. And to honor Morris, a school now bears his name. Nobody understood better than Morris how vital education is for our future. He knew a strong education system would yield great leaders, and nobody was a greater leader than Morris Slingleff. On the football field, the fairway, in business, or helping in the classroom, Morris Slingleff gave 100% effort 100% of the time.
One of the lesser known facts about my father, most folks know him as the sweet, kind, loving man, but he was one of the fiercest competitors that I have ever known. Whether you were bowling, playing gin rummy, playing golf, or in business, he wanted to whip you like no tomorrow, sideways, up and down. And he would do it with a smile on his face, and after he did whip you, he would say, "I sure enjoyed it. You played well, and I enjoyed the fellowship." But that, I mean, he was the number one thing, is he was happy that he whipped your butt in whatever he did. So one thing that sticks with me about my father, and I'm not one to quote scripture, but Jesus said, love your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And never did I see a man live with that on his shoulder like Dad did. He touched the hearts of many people, hundreds and thousands of people. And what legacy to leave your children as something like that.
Accepting the honor this evening for his father and on behalf of the family is Ben Slingleff.
Good evening. This is a big deal. Janice Shepherd, is she out there? Janice, you done good. It's fancy. First of all, I would, on behalf of my family, I would like to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for this great honor for Dad, who y'all know as Morris. I'd like to thank Kevin Payne for nominating him, and also thank the Wiregrass Church for allowing this to be held here. And a quick plug for the Wiregrass Church: for those of you who don't believe Jesus likes rock and roll, y'all need to come visit the Wiregrass Church. You'll change your opinion on that. Shane and I go to the Episcopal Church, but we come here 3 or 4 times a year to get a little balance in our life. I know that this honor is very humbling for my father, especially with being inducted with Mr. Red Dove and his close friend, Mr. Ralph Smith. I had a vision of what heaven would be like tonight, and I envision a room with a TV in it and a big leather armchair with Mr. Red Dove sitting front and center, and then Mr. Ralph and Morris, being Mr. Red's junior, sitting in 2 metal folding chairs next to him. And I can hear Dad leaning over to Mr. Ralph and saying, "Ralph, you're a far better man than me. You need to be sitting here with Mr. Dove." And then Mr. Ralph would say, "No, Morris, you're the better man than me. You need to be sitting here only with Mr. Dove." And then Dad would look back and say, "Mr. Ralph, look what all you did for the children in our community, what you did for Rotary Club." And then he'd say, "No, Morris, look what you did for education." And he'd say, "Ralph, you did this church, civil rights." When we get there, that conversation's still going to be going on between the two of them. Morris Slingluff is being honored in a great way tonight, being inducted into Dothan's Business Hall of Fame. And I am receiving the award on his behalf. So what do I say? What could any of you say, being in my shoes, accepting this award for such an awesome man? One thing I can say or do is brag on him, because he wouldn't do that for himself. It wasn't his style. Ever since I was about 3 years old, I knew there was something special about my father. And at whatever age each of you were when you met him, you knew there was something special about my father. There was something about him, and for many, many years, I would try to put my finger on what makes him so great. I knew he was great, but I wanted to put my finger on the one thing that made him so great, the one thing that made him successful. I wanted to simplify the complexity of his greatness. And just recently, to my amazement, I did. And I'd like to share it with you. Would you like to hear it? He loved us. He loved you. He loved me. He loved Dothan. He loved the schools. He loved the teachers. He loved whites, blacks, yellows, reds. He loved Christians, Jews, Buddhists. He loved Slingluff United Insurance. He loved the employees, and he loved our customers, and they felt it. I could stand up here and talk about his work ethic, his insurance knowledge, and other reasons why he was a successful businessman. But those things are small when comparing them to the main, bottom line reason to his success: love. Now again, as I said on the Jumbotron, I'm not the preaching type, but Dad had a verse in his office, in the corner, not for anybody else to see, but for him to see. And I think it was a reminder and a gut check for those tough days. And it is the secret that he knew all along. It is simple sense, and it says, "Christ in you is the hope of glory." Jesus said the greatest thing is to love. Christ in you, love, is the hope of glory. That is what Morris Slingluff did, and he was successful. So, in honor of Morris, in honor of Dad, in honor of your friend, and in my opinion, in honor of one of the greatest men Dothan has ever seen, in honor of him, let's go love a little more, and let's go be successful. Thank you.
And our last laureate was born into a family rich in ethics and determination. When his name is mentioned, one word always comes to mind, and that's giving, a word that described every facet of his life. His achievements are great, but by his own testimony, they are only a reward given to him because of his willingness to give to others. Ralph Smith.
Ralph Smith's life's journey began in 1934 when he was born to a family not rich in material things, but wealthy in the things that really matter: honesty, integrity, and love for others. Perhaps Ralph's best day's work came in 1955 when he married Carolyn Riley. As they say, behind every successful man is a wise, supportive woman, and for Ralph, Carolyn was that woman. Ralph served in the U.S. Army. Afterwards, he worked as a warehouseman and sales representative. Along the way, he met William Lewis of Lewis Supply Company in Moultrie, Georgia. The two developed a mutual respect for each other, and in 1974 founded Lewis Smith Supply. A few years later, Ralph bought out Mr. Lewis, and with hard work, dedication, honesty, and integrity, Lewis Smith Supply grew into the largest independently owned plumbing and heating and cooling distributorship in Alabama. If you measured Ralph by his business accomplishments alone, he would be a grand slam. But Ralph's biggest achievement wasn't at the cash register, but what he did for this community. He loved Dixie Youth Baseball so much that not only did he serve on its board of directors, but Lewis Smith Supply has sponsored over 400 teams. He served on boards of organizations such as the Wiregrass Rehabilitation Center, the Boys Club, Southeast Alabama Medical Center, the Salvation Army. He was active in the United Way, where he was also on the board. He was president of the Dothan Rotary Club, where he was a Paul Harris Fellow, the Chamber Board, Wiregrass Hospice, Dothan Country Club, the South Trust Bank Board of Directors. He was a founding member of the Dothan Botanical Gardens. Ralph received the 2001 Golden Deeds Award from the Exchange Club and the 2003 Humanitarian Award from the Arthritis Foundation. He was even a Dothan City Commissioner. Mr. Smith was active in the First Church of the Nazarene, where he served in many positions, including 8 years as Sunday School Superintendent. That's who Ralph Smith was. But who Ralph Smith wasn't was a man who wanted attention. Instead, he just enjoyed giving to others, living by the old adage, it is more blessed to give than receive. This past Sunday marked 2 years since Ralph left us. Even in declining health, he was still working to make Dothan a better place for us to live. That was Ralph Smith. A great businessman without question, but it will be what Ralph Smith did out of the office that will always be best remembered.
Dad grew up a sharecropper son along with 6 siblings out in the Webb, Columbia area. He worked in the fields before and after school, sometimes even when he was supposed to be in school. He was drafted into the Army shortly after high school. After basic training, they sent him to all places cooking school. He spent 2 years, his 2-year assignment in Germany cooking for the troops. Of course, when I was a child, my sister and I would ask him why he would not cook for us, and he said that he only cooked for hundreds, he couldn't cook for just 4 people. Needless to say, he had had enough of cooking. He came back from the Army and started working for a small plumbing supply house here in Dothan, driving a delivery truck. He moved up to waiting on customers on the sales counter. That job started a chain of events that led to starting Lewis Smith Supply with 3 employees, my mom, my dad, and a delivery driver. Today we have 5 stores and 70 employees.
Accepting the honor this evening for his father and on behalf of the Smith family is Mark Smith.
I got quite an act to follow after Ben and Earl, but I promise I'll make it short and sweet. First, I want to thank on behalf of our whole family, the Dothan Area Young Professionals and the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce for this wonderful honor that you have bestowed upon my dad. Also, thank you for those who nominated him and everyone involved in putting on this wonderful event. I want to recognize someone that, if not for her, Lewis Smith Supply would not be where it is today. Mom, will you please stand? For those that don't know, this is my mom, Carolyn Smith. Dad and Mom were a team in everything that they did, including running our business. When Dad started the business in 1974, Mom was right there with him. In fact, there were only 3 employees: my dad, my mom, and a delivery driver. 4, if you count me. I was in charge of taking out the garbage. It was quite a task for a 7-year-old. Anyway, she worked full-time with him right by his side for over 30 years. She cut back about 10 years ago and started working 3 days a week. She's still there today, keeping us all straight. As I said before, Dad, attention. He wasn't about that, but he certainly did deserve it. He built our company from nothing into the largest distributor of plumbing and HVAC in Alabama. He did it by exceeding the golden rule in that he always treated others better than he expected to be treated, whether it was his employees, customers, friends, family, or anyone who walked through his door. He had a servant's heart, always giving back to the community any way he could. Coming from very little, he always wanted to do anything he could for those in need. Once again, on behalf of our entire family, thank you for this wonderful honor.
And please join me once again in congratulating all of tonight's inductees. Congratulations to all, they are so well deserving. Thank you again for joining us for this annual event. We appreciate your attendance and your support. We hope to see you again next year. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.